高校校友会联合会副会长，也是中美大学加拿大校友会会长。首先，我非常欢迎大家抽出周末的宝贵时间，来参加我们这次关于年轻一代的领导力培养和职场的工作发展的讲座。我们这次讲座呢，主要是在这个青年领导力培养，及应用这个大学的学习方法和实习经验，还有这个国际化的视野、专业求职面试技巧几个方面，我们邀请了一些嘉宾和优秀的同学来给我们分享自己的经历和心得。首先呢，我介绍一下今天来在线的主办方的主要嘉宾，他们是加拿大中国高校校友联合会理事长、复旦多伦多校友会会长叶军，加州贸易文化交流协会会长、集美大学加拿大校友会会长周建成，中国高校校友会联合会会长，西安交大多伦多校友会会长程斌，加中经贸文化交流协会执行会长，也是华东交大北美校友会名誉会长曾成，还有我们加拿大中国留学生关爱中心 founder 董黎明先生，还有其他的那个 Ccaa 的会员单位的会长，还有其他的这个加拿大高校社区的校友会的领导们。等一会儿呢，我们会逐渐的介绍，有的人可能还没有进来。So good evening, everyone. Welcome to join us for tonight's webinar about youth leadership and career and job development. My name is Nelson. I'm the VP of the Ccaa, Confederation of Chinese Alumni Association, and also the president of the North University of China Alumni Association. Today's webinar is about youth leadership skills development and international vision of job hunting and interview skills. Before we start, let me introduce the VIPs attendees from the organizing committee. They are Ccaa Executive Director, President of Fudan University Alumni Toronto Association, Bill Ye, Ccea President, President of Jimei University Alumni Association, Jiancheng Zhou, Ccea President, Ccaa President, President of Xi'an Jiaotong University Alumni Association of Toronto, Bin Cheng, Ccea Executive President, Honorary President of East China Jiaotong University, North America Alumni Association, Cheng Zeng, the founder of Youth Care Center, Mr. Li Ming Dong. Today's event, the co-host is a familiar moderator of the university alumni community. She's also the vice president of Ccaa, Danielle Chen. She's also the president of the Beijing University of Posts and Telecommunications Alumni Association Canada. So before I turn over to Danielle, I would like to also to do some housekeeping, like to announce the disclaimer of today's event. 就是我要读一下免责声明，我们 Ccaa 的免责声明。我们 Ccaa 和 Ccea 呢都是联邦政府注册的非盈利机构。本次的活动呢是公益性质的，活动的嘉宾与 Ccaa 没有任何的商业或者经济利益。本次嘉宾所发表的观点只代表嘉宾本人，不代表 Ccaa 主办方或者协办单位。嘉宾演讲观点可做参考，不作为决策依据。嘉宾分享的信息可能随时间推移不再准确，需要重新调查。主办方、协办单位以及主讲嘉宾不承担这个由此引起的责任，请慎重引用。所以这个 disclaimer 我再用英文读一遍，就是the opinions expressed by the guest speaker represent only the speakers themselves and do not represent the view of Ccaa or Ccea speaker company. Some of the information shared by this forum may not be accurate over time and need to be re-investigated. The viewpoints of the speakers can be referenced, may not be used as a guideline for decision making. The guest speaker, Ccaa, Ccea, and speakers company do not assume any responsibility arising therefrom. Please quote based on your own discretion. 那么我已经把这个念完了，现在呢，我就准备呢把我的话筒交给 Danielle. So I'm passing to Danielle, please.
谢谢 Nelson. Thank you. Good evening. Welcome to CCAA's Youth Leadership Skills and Career Development Forum 1. My name is Danielle Chen, and one of the MCs for this evening. Hope you are doing well and safe. Today, we have 5 young talents to share a nicely selected topics such as job searching, professional writing, volunteering for the community, traveling to Africa and Japan, their ambitions, the dreams, and of course, overcoming their challenges during pandemics. I want to thank these speakers for their generosity to support tonight's event. It's an important community event. And I also like to take a moment to give you a quick introduction about CCAA as an organization. CCAA stands for Confederation of Chinese Alumni Association, as Nelson has mentioned before. It is a nonprofit organization and, for the alumni associations whose members graduated from the Chinese universities but are currently living and working in Canada. Many of them came to Canada in the early 80s and 90s. CCAA has over 21,000 members across Canada from over 80 organizations. They are a group of professionals across many or perhaps all industries, such as information technology, finance, manufacture, government, healthcare, education, and the list can go on. It is a platform for us to learn, grow, and support each other, and of course, to support our second generation of Chinese immigrants like yourself. We want to leverage CCA to support the youth and their leadership development, which is the key to grow our community. Now, let's welcome CCAA's Executive Director, Bill Ye, to say a few words for us. 我现在想邀请我们这个常务理事长叶军来给我们大家讲几句话，谢谢。
Thank you, Danny. Okay, good evening, all the honorable guests. Youth Chinese in Canada is our next generation. CCA, is very happy to pass our Chinese value, experience, wisdom, and professional knowledges and social networks into our next generation. CCA is very proud to have the volunteerism and the professionalism at the core of its founding value. Today's session is a milestone for this series of youth leadership and the professional career development forums. Together, we are strong. We can make our future bright and make Canada and make the world an even better place to live in. During this Asia Heritage Month, let's also celebrate the contribution of Asian Canadians, including the Asian Canadian frontline workers who have been working tirelessly to keep our community safe and healthy. Thank you, and have a nice day to enjoy this wonderful session. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Bill. Thank you for the encouraging words. Now, I'm just going to share a few housekeeping items. Please mute your speaker during the presentation. Feel free to send your questions in the chat box, right? And, we'll ask presenters to answer your questions to the best they can. So without further ado, let me invite the first speaker. I believe it is Jason Xi.
Hold on, one more. I had one more co-host.
Oh, yes. Sorry about that.
Yeah. My name is Chen Zheng. I would like to make a few, as a co-host, I would like to make a few speeches here. Something here. First of all, on behalf of the CCEA, Canadian China Economic Trade and Culture Exchange Promotion Alliance, I would like to sincerely welcome you to this CCAA and CCEA Youth Leadership Skills and Professional Career Development Forum. Since the establishment of the CCEA in 2013, we have organized several international events like travel forums, education forums, especially since pandemic last year. We have successfully organized 15 forums and events by inviting international experts to share their knowledge to fighting for COVID-19 and also share the visions and prepare for future uncertainty and also serve our communities. Youth growth and professional development is important for our future generation, as Bill just mentioned. Tonight, together with the CCA, we are very happy to invite 5 distinguished talent, young role model to share their leadership development skills and the implementation in real life, especially a professional career development in intern or international work experience. That's very helpful for young generations to apply it in their job huntings and also the personal growth development. So it's a perfect timing for us to get together and learn from it and apply to it in our real life. I would say in our 5 speakers, they have 4 in common. First, very good leadership skill and demonstrated in either the finding in the professional clubs or groups, or they actively participate in the association to serve community. Second, they are all professionals with innovative mindset, excellent team building experience from what I can see. Third, they have an international insight and vision on the career developments. And last but not least, they are very self-motivated, dare to challenge, and love to share. And you will feel tonight. Finally, I will wish tonight's event a very complete success, and all of you can benefit from the powerful sharing they have. Thank you, all the volunteers to organize this event. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
So next, I'd like to invite our first speaker, Jason Shi. Welcome, Jason. I'm just going to do a quick intro about yourself. You are a co-founder and a vice president of Purple Hands, I believe, and co-founder of London Fit Crew and research student. I believe today you want to talk about giving back to the community, putting others before yourself, because there are some of the important qualities for medical study, and then the other activities. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Danielle. If you don't mind, I'll share my screen right now. So like they all said, I'm gonna echo what everyone has previously said. Welcome to tonight's event. We're so glad to have you here. And like Danielle said, me being from a medical background, I'll be focusing mainly my talk on the medical aspects of leadership and those kinds of topics, where our other distinguished speakers will be focusing more on their respective fields. So this is a brief look at how my presentation is going to proceed today. I'll give a little bit more information about who I am, and then I'll sort of introduce the idea of DEI, otherwise known as diversity, equity, and inclusion. Then I'll touch on the current state of diversity, equity, inclusion in the context of healthcare and healthcare providing and healthcare delivery. Then I'll follow up with my experience with diversity, equity, and inclusion, as well as my recent experience throughout the health studies application process. And then I'll leave a few tips and tidbits for future students. So let's get started. Once again, my name is Jason. I recently graduated from the medical sciences program at Western University, and now I'll be lucky enough to do my Master's of Science in physical therapy at U of T this fall. Like Danielle said, I'm a co-founder of many clubs at school. 2 of them I'll highlight are Purple Hands and London Fit Crew. And I'm also an avid research student in many departments, but more so I'll focus on my role in the Schulich School of Medicine and Dentistry. So let's get started. So what kind of is diversity, equity, and inclusion? Well, briefly defined, it's really meant to create an inclusive learning environment for all aspiring healthcare professionals and really ensure improved healthcare outcomes for all, and ensuring that the different people from different backgrounds, socioeconomic status, don't really fall through the cracks. And so this idea has been very, very important recently, specifically in healthcare settings. As you can see from a few of the examples I've listed on this slide, the College of Physicians and Surgeons of Ontario, which is the healthcare governing board in Ontario, is really pushing for diversity, equity, inclusion. This is just an example of one of their job postings for this summer for the next generation of healthcare providers. They really want students focusing, as you can see here, on equity, diversity, and inclusion initiatives. And to really compound this idea, you can see that many MD programs, specifically, I'll focus here, but many healthcare providing programs really encourage diversity, equity, inclusion. As you can see here, the MD program, U of T, has their Black student application pool. Western University has their Indigenous applicants pool. So you can really see that the healthcare environment is very much prioritizing people that work with or are from various backgrounds and socioeconomic status. So I'll tie this to my experience and why I feel like I can speak to this. So in my second year, or at the end of my first year, actually, I founded Purple Hands, which has grown to be really a 50-member homeless advocacy organization. We've been able to partner with many great organizations, from national charities such as Goodwill, the Salvation Army, to municipalities such as London, where I am located, to even the federal government, where we were lucky enough to secure federal grants for our work. And so, just briefly speaking, what Purple Hands really does is we bridge the gap between the student body with the homeless community. However, I really want to bring this up, as I don't think that as future students, you should be really limited to, for me, for example, I've chosen to work with the homeless population. However, I feel like you should really look at this as a template for you to work with other people from other various backgrounds, whether it be underserved women's shelters or whatever have you. If healthcare is something that really interests you, I feel like it's something that you should definitely focus on. And I really speak to this because with my experience recently interviewing at Western Med School and with University of Toronto physical therapy programs, they really emphasize what you've done with the community. It's the grades are important, don't get me wrong. Academics are definitely important to get you to that seat. But once you're at that seat, no one's really asking you how you did on anatomy. No one's really asking you, what did you get in physiology? What they really look at is your resume and say, oh, tell me about Purple Hands. Who have you worked with? Who have you impacted? And for me, we've impacted over 200 students. We've been able to donate over 1,000 sanitation items to the homeless population. We've been broadcasted on our student news network. And so it's those kinds of things that really pique the healthcare school interests and what will really get you into that door. And to just further push this idea of how important diversity, equity, inclusion has really become in the healthcare space, I'm lucky enough to have a position at the Schulich School of Medicine and Dentistry as a research student. And my supervisor has recently secured a $500,000 research grant, specifically studying how to improve perspective taking and how to encourage diversity, equity, inclusion education in pre-medical students. And so I'm really bringing this to all your attention to show you that these are the kinds of projects that are really getting federal attention, getting granting agency attention. And so whether you want to get involved as a research student or start your own research project, or even just get involved somehow in diversity, equity, inclusion, I really brought this up to show you that it is a future goldmine for aspiring healthcare providers. And so this ties in nicely to a few tidbits that I would have for all you up and coming young students. Although myself, I'm not much older than you, but here we go. So this is taken straight from the Canadian Medical website. And this is what they really recommend and they look for in healthcare providers. So whether you want to go into nursing, whether you want to be a physician, whether you want to be a physical therapist, whether you want to be a surgeon, whatever have you, this is what they look for. They look for someone with professionalism, a great communicator, collaborator, strong leadership, as many of us will touch on today. And you really have to be a scholar and health advocate, specifically in areas of diversity, equity, inclusion. It's really becoming a new day and age here in Canada. Canada is very much a multicultural country and community. And although I'll admit, when I was younger, I really didn't see much into this diversity, equity, inclusion. My father was an extremely successful academic. And so that's kind of what I aspired to be. I always thought, hey, if I did, I published this great research paper, I'll get into that med school. If I get the 4.0, I'll get into that physical therapy school. But I hate to break it to everyone, but that's not really how it really works now. And I urge everyone to really prioritize diversity, equity, inclusion in their future endeavors. So thank you very much. And I'll entertain your questions in the Q&A session, but thank you for now.
Thank you, Jason. Thank you. That's very inspiring content you have shared. Focus on DEI, right? Diversity, equity, inclusion. Thanks a lot. So next we have Zhen Bang Zhou. Welcome, Zhen Bang. Thank you very much for being our guest speaker today. So you are a co-founder of Quantum Computing Club, University of Toronto. You're also the bachelor candidate for engineering science at U of T. I think you're the future scientist. Welcome. And I think you wanted to share with us about science, of course, and then how to be happy. And perhaps before you become a leader, you need to know how to find the values of yourself. So please go ahead and take the floor.
All right. Thank you so much for the introduction. Let me just take a second to share the screen. Here you go. All right, yeah, so thank you so much for the introductions. It's definitely my honor to be here to speak on specific this topic. And yeah, so I think other speakers will touch on a very, very professional and very utilitarian side of, job applications and how to be successful after you graduate, or how do you apply into all these institute or college. For me, I think I want to speak to a more fundamental side of human life. And I think we'll start our journey here tying to the topic of this specific talk, leadership. So let's start by asking this question first. What is leadership? I mean, I think when I first heard about this term in high school for like a leadership workshop, I was kind of confused because I didn't think leadership was something that you can work on in a workshop. I didn't know what it was. I didn't, frankly, still the definition is still kind of vague. So I just want to sort of pose that question to the audience. And I'm not sure how interactive this talk is supposed to be, but just think about maybe that just silently in your head. So what is leadership after all? What does leadership mean to you guys? Is it the willingness? So I come up with two definitions here. Is it the ability to lead? Is it the willingness to lead? Are you imagine, when you say leadership, do you imagine like someone in a high horse commanding a siege battle, right? Something like that. But then, but think about in that terms of definition. But what is even wrong with not being a leader in the first place? What's wrong with not being like someone who's in the command? Why can't I just do my job, as it is? So I find the concept of leadership that in a way we put it at such a high pedestal has sort of taken away from the fact that what is even the significance of becoming or nurturing these leadership prospects. So some rectifications that I want to make is leadership is not just in a more helpful way to define this. Leadership is not just leading others. Think about it as leading yourself. You are the commander of your body after all, and how do you make the most out of your body? That's essentially what I'm getting at here. So practicing leadership, to me, in a more useful context, is to practice how to lead yourself. To tell you, so I think I can break it down into 2 points: self-discipline and self-love. So how do you command yourself? How do you wake yourself in the morning and push yourself throughout a day, and with a specific goal in mind? This is what you should think about, that's essentially the first step in order for you to even accomplish anything or to have like a well-constructed future or a life plan. So these are two specific aspects that I want to talk about today, and how do we nurture them? So let's start with self-discipline. If you probably heard a lot of gurus saying, you gotta practice habits and this or that. But that's not quite the root of the cause. I mean, you can keep on. These are definitely good advices, but at the end of the day, how does that originate from yourself? I think that's mainly come from the idea of will to power. Sort of drawing from Nietzsche here. So what is that one specific concept that always at the back of your mind. That defines what you are. Because I think as human, we only need that one specific idea that you hold very, very true to. At least for me, when I was in high school, I didn't know what I was going to do. The reason why I got into engineering science was because I had a decent mark, and I was good at math. So why not engineering science? Because I had 2 years to decide. Didn't really know what I was going to do. But in the middle of it, sometimes you think about sometimes you have like a panic attack and an existential crisis. Like, okay, what am I doing actually with my life? I finished this. I have a degree. Later on, I just followed this traditional life path. And is that all to your life? And are you truly happy in that regard? But then I realized it's super, super important to find that specific key to your life. And for me, it was that I just couldn't stand the fact that there's something out there that I didn't know, or there's some physical phenomena that out there that are not unexplainable. That's just something that always hits the back of my head. And so I decided, that's what I want to do. So that's why I got into physics, and that's how I was able to plan. So okay, if I want to get into physics, to learn from the best and to learn all the core systems, how do I do it? So that comes to the idea of building a resume, building your research experience, and having a very, very good recommendation letter. By the way, this is a super key step for anyone of you out there who want to get into academia. A recommendation letter is a huge, huge, huge help. So that's how you build a plan. Because once you have the will to power, every day you wake up, you can evaluate yourself based on this specific will to power. Are you living to the full extent of your definitions of your value? And to create it, it's always just you can come from observation. Maybe this is something implicit, but the step here is to make it explicit by observing your sort of everyday choices and how what really is something that defines who you are. And now I think I just want to touch a bit on self-love. So the idea, again, drawing on Nietzsche here, I am a bit of a fan, but we're not going to go too deep here. But so the idea of internal recurrence is just, we're very familiar with that in Chinese culture, the idea of reincarnation. But imagine you have to live a life. This is your life forever, right? Your next life is this. Your previous life is this. You can interpret it as two ways. So your action needs to be. You have to perfect your actions, or at least you have to live every moment to your fullest, because you know that you have to repeat the specific things 100 million infinity times to the end of time. So you want to make every seconds count. But also, it's a deep appreciation to your fate and who you are as a person, right? So no matter how little you're or in a social standing, however insignificant your will to power is, that's who you are, and you should really love that. And you should really embrace that part of you, and really live that self-confidence way. I think that's essentially the idea here, is to appreciate your past and appreciate what's about to come, and that's essentially I think what Nietzsche is trying to tell us with the idea of internal recurrence. And finally, so these are the 3 stages of growth or life, according to Nietzsche. I think I'm not sure how we're doing. We're doing pretty good, actually. So maybe we'll end a little short, but maybe I'll share a bit more tips on academia in general. But I just want to focus. So according to Nietzsche, the first step is camel. You're having all these great troubles. You're sort of challenging this. Going through these perils of life, and you have all these responsibilities that are shouldered upon you, and you have to carry that with you. And from there, the next life is the next stage of life is a lion. But what a lion is that it's ferocious. You're self-confident. You've built up enough skills for you to sort of be very flamboyant, if I may. But you always have this one dragon, your one specific weakness in your life that you will have to deal with. And that's just the way of life. Later on, I mean, I can't really speak, in a more constant way, as I'm just, not too older than you guys, but to have that specific battle is definitely important. And once you come out on top, the final stage of life is actually a child. And why is it a child? Well, a child doesn't care about the world. The child only cares about its own curiosity. It's pure, unadulterated will to power, and that's essentially the life form the balance that you want to achieve is essentially, how to live yourself as a pure manifestations of your value and your will to power, and don't care about anything else. And that's such a beautiful romantic thing. I mean, I'm not sure. Again, I'm not. This is not a. I don't take it as a complete doctrine of how you should lead your life. But that idea is definitely something that you should achieve, because we live in such a we have the pandemics. We live in such like a nihilistic world. It's so comforting that you can sort of have your own sense of value and live to essentially the full idea of where you are. But yeah, so that's pretty much it. And a couple of tips for, I guess, I think we're a little early. But yeah, thank you so much for listening. But I guess I'll share some tips for getting, I think academia. So I guess again, I should before that, for study plans and all that. I think this is it's a topic people are more curious about. In a sense, I mean, having the balance and all that, it's just a natural consequence once you figure out your idea and your will to power. I mean, for example, I come back from school, and then I was like, okay, I didn't really understand that math course, so maybe I'll spend like 2 hours on it, and once I'm good, I'm balanced it out, and it's okay. Then how do I I feel tired, and how do I rejuvenate myself, because that's an important process too. How do you rejuvenate yourself to the fullest? And then I'll lay down, I'll drink a couple of teas, I'll read some book, I'll sing out loud, karaoke with my friends, and that's just a part of the goal thing. So you want to sort of live in a more goal-oriented style in a sense, but that doesn't mean a boring style. It doesn't mean like you have to pump all your energy into complete tasks, but just make sure that you're sort of well prepared for next stage in life every day. So yeah, that's kind of the idea I want to push forwards. But yeah, so that's pretty much it. Yeah, again, I see in the chat, this didn't really expect it to be a philosophy lessons, but I mean, essentially one thing, if anything, one thing you have to take away from this is that you have to find that specific will to power, specific reason for you to be who you are right now. Then you can actually be truly free with your choices, with how you choose, and you can truly be satisfied with the things you've done and the things you will become in the future. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Thank you so much. Thanks so much for your time. But yeah.
Thank you. Wow. I have to say that there are a lot of deep thinkings, and you remind me of this movie. I'm sure you've watched it before, Lion King, The Circle of Life, right? You see that infinite, circle of life, absolutely. And I thought you probably wanted to be, because I thought, oh, this is the future scientist, but I can see that you might become the philosopher in the future. You can do both, right? And I thank you so much for sharing how to be happy, how to discover, understanding yourself. And that's so true. Doesn't matter how old or how young you are. This is always the life questions we need to ask ourselves constantly. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. I'm sure I have more questions for you later on. Thank you. Yes. Next, Nelson, would you like to give an introduction?
Okay, sure. So the next one, I would like to introduce an excellent new graduate from U of T. She recently graduated from the Psychology and Film Studies at the U of T, and she's the Canada Youth Care Center, the Care Ambassador. 下面我给大家介绍一位非常优秀的留学生代表，他的名字叫矫健。他呢，今年2021年5月份毕业于多伦多大学的心理学和电影学双专业。他现在还是加拿大中国留学生关爱中心的这个关爱大使。2021年1月份的时候，他作为 YCCC 关爱大使出席了蓝天共远抗疫同行视频连线活动，与上海的张文宏教授做连线互动。下面呢，有请这个矫健来给我们分享他在疫情期间呢怎么样克服这个困难，来完成他的这个学业的。好，下面给矫健。
我先共享一下屏幕，稍等一下。 大家能看见吗？
可以。
可以。
OK， 好。Hello， 大家好，我是矫健然后 Jenny， 然后呢，我是多伦多，就像刚刚老师介绍的一样，我是多伦多大学刚刚毕业，然后现在呢，其实我还在上海进行隔离，所以现在我是在酒店里，然后非常非常荣幸能够这次出席这样一次分享会，也是得益于我在 YCC 中国留学生关爱中心，然后我也看到董哥今天好像有在，所以非常感谢董哥老师给我的这次机会所以今天相较于刚刚2位同学的一个分享，我可能更加着重于的是就我在多伦多大学，在多伦多的最后1年这样一个在疫情之下我是怎样平衡学习以及生活来进行一个分享，也希望能够给到今天观众里可能准备要去多伦多或者现在正在多伦多准备念大1大2的一些学弟学妹带来一些小小的帮助然后今天的分享呢，我会先从自己的经历开始说起，然后慢慢再转到我在整个这1年里学到的一些东西。那首先先简单介绍一下自己，就像刚刚老师说的一样，我是多伦多大学的毕业生，然后双专业是心理学的 specialist 和电影学的 major。然后今年非常荣幸可以毕业，虽然没有毕业典礼，有一点点小小的遗憾，但是在这最后的1年里，其实我也学到了非常多的东西。今天想要来跟大家做一个小小的演讲。好，首先呢，我想先从我的一个经历开始说起我把它取名为从2020到2021。其实可能我的经历比较的特殊，因为我曾经在2020年4月份的时候成功的抢到了机票回到了上海，因为大家应该也知道2020年4月的时候，当时疫情非常严重，然后中国这边很多时候机票都有被大面积的一个取消，但是当我大3结束之后，其实我这里用的一个关键词是 with luck， 那个时候我是非常荣幸可以抢到这样一张机票，然后回到上海进行隔离，进行暑假。2020年9月份的时候呢，在这样一个可以说是明知山有虎，偏向虎山行的这样一个过程当中，我做了一个很大胆的一个决定。当时这个决定呢，其实在家里面很多我的家人有一部分反对的声音，因为当时我决定要回到多伦多去度过我大4的最后1年。当时其实已经有收到通知要上网课，但是我依旧想要回到多伦多去上大4。所以这里我用到的关键词是 with mixed feeling， 因为我觉得当时我自己的一个感受是非常复杂的，我一会儿也会来着重讲讲为什么很复杂。然后2021年5月，也就是现在和大家见面的日子呢，我非常荣幸可以毕业然后现在呢又回到了上海，虽然隔离酒店不一样，但是又开始进行我的14天隔离。那在这样一次回国的旅途当中，我觉得我学到了非常多，就短1年或者1年都不到的时间，我觉得我收获了很多。其实我被问到最大的一个问题是 Have you ever regretted this decision？ 你有没有后悔过这个决定？或者说你有没有后悔过9月份当时明明可以在上海在中国进行网课学习，为什么还要回多伦多？那我的答案也是我这一次演讲的一个主题，我觉得就是 yes but no，一定是会有过后悔的，也不是说后悔吧，可能有过后怕的这样一种感受，但是最终当我现在回来了之后，我觉得我最终的感受落脚点还是我学到了更多。所以我想先来说说 yes 的这一部分，为什么会说我有后悔过这个决定？我觉得莫过于这几点，3种情绪和1种感受。首先3种情绪是，第一种情绪就是一种 uncertainty， 就是一种不确定性，不管是对于我到了多伦多我能不能5月份准时或者非常幸运的回来的一种不确定性，能不能买到这张机票，也有对于在多伦多疫情这样一个数据往往你知道增长这样一种不确定性，我会不会被感染，说的简单一点。那这样一种不确定性呢，其实就延续到了第2种情绪，也就是一种害怕，因为当时是一个人在多伦多，然后父母在上海，然后包括很多的朋友同学也选择留在上海，是一个人在多伦多自己去度过这样一段一个人的日子，所以这样一种害怕或者无法去倾诉的一种感觉，我觉得是可能会陪伴很多目前可能也在多伦多的留学生的一种很大的一种感受。那么第3种它不是一种情绪，第3种我把它定义为是一种 感官上的一种感觉。那么这是一种 responsibility。为什么我说 responsibility 在这个时候会给自己带来负担呢？因为就像我刚刚说的那样，在去年9月份的时候，我回国，我的父母其实是有一点点反对意见的，所以那个时候我需要做的是把责任都揽在自己的身上，因为我选择回国，我选择回到多伦多，所以在多伦多所有的一些我外出的安全性都需要我自己去负责，所以这样一种责任在疫情下，我觉得会显得更加的，可能用一个词来形容，可能会比较沉重，有的时候也会给你带来一点焦虑。那么最后一点 loneliness， 我觉得这个我不用多说，一定的。其实在留学生很多没有父母陪读的情况下，都会时常感到有一些孤独，尤其在深夜里。那我觉得在疫情下，其实这份孤独会被放大，这份孤独会让你焦虑啊，或者焦躁啊，甚至是抑郁。所以我觉得这4种情绪很多时候会让很多留学生去后悔自己当时为什么要选择一个人去那边的一个感受。那么接下来为什么我会说我的答案最终还是落脚点是在 no 呢？其实我觉得最关键的一点是我这边加粗的这样一句话，因为我发现从2020到2021大3到大4最终到毕业的这样一个经历，我觉得可能我虽然现在我说一辈子可能有点长，但是我觉得这段经历一定是我可能不会再次遇到，因为疫情可能也是我们大家万年难遇的一件事情，所以这样一段一个人经历的这样一段收获也好，还是感慨也好，我觉得可能是非常难再能够经历一次了。那么接下来呢，在下面的3页 PPT 里呢，我就会着重来说说为什么我觉得我学到了很多，我收获到了很多。那首先有这2个问题也是我总结出来的。第一个呢是 How did I communicate with these negative emotions？ 我是怎么去和他们交流的？注意到这里的关键词，我其实用到的是 communicate， 而不是 get rid of， 或者说 stop、suspicion， 不是这样一些词，我用的是跟他们怎么去交流。因为其实负面情绪永远都会有，你压抑了一个，第2个会来，你今天压抑了，明天照样他会来找到你，所以你要怎么去跟他们共存，我觉得这是非常关键的。然后第2个呢，就是我是怎样在疫情下，在这样一个 stressful moments 下，我是怎样去 maintain 我的一个 well-being 的。因为我发现其实在学习和生活的这样一个平衡过程当中，很多时候学业可能不是最重要的，因为你的心理健康、你的身体健康，甚至是你的学术健康，其实是比你的一个学术成就要来的更加的重要。所以接下来3页 PPT 我就会简单介绍一下我的一些小技巧，然后我把它取名为叫 My Assistant， 因为我一个人在多伦多，可能身边的朋友很多不能见面，但是这些小帮手我觉得其实帮助到了我很多，也是让我现在能够跟大家来分享的一个契机。那么首先呢，我想先来谈 mental health， 因为我是学心理学的，可能我会觉得mental health 你的一个心理健康是最重要的一点，甚至比你的身体健康其实更要重要。因为如果你压抑，如果你焦躁，如果你焦虑，80%的事情你是做不好的，这是肯定做不好的。所以首先怎样维持一个心理的一个平衡，首先第一点，尤其是在疫情下，就是 stop thinking about what if， 不要去想假使我当时没有做这个决定，我现在会怎么样，或者不要去想一个如果，因为很多时候这世界上没有如果，这个应该是我们大家都经常听到的一句话。但是很多人在一个很压抑的一个情况下，他会去想，比如说我去年9月份如果没有来，我现在是不是就能出去玩了？或者我现在9月份如果没有来，我是不是现在就能更加开心了？但是你会发现，你越是这么想，你会发现你过不好现在的生活，你也一直在回顾过去的话，你就你就止步不前。所以我觉得这样一个感觉是维持一个心理健康最关键的一点。然后第2点，这是我个人的一个感受，可能会运用到不同的人有不同的一个方式，但是对我来说，写东西或者说有一个日记，我觉得是非常非常好的一种方式，尤其是对于一个人在家里在疫情之下，你没有办法去可能很好的跟别人去社交，那其实日记的一个形式是能够让你知道你每一天都有意义的去生活着，而不是说漫无目的。所以当然这一点我觉得可能对于某些不喜欢文字的同学来说，可能可以把它变成摄影啊，或者说是画画啊，甚至是烧饭啊，就是类似于像这样一些小小的有一些生活小情调的东西，其实它都可以帮助你去 缓解你生活中你学习中的一些压力。所以这个当然这个要坚持，而不是说做1天就好了，我觉得这个是2个月3个月甚至是1年的一个工作。然后第3点我觉得这是老生常谈，第3点和第4点其实我想连在一起说，因为很多第4点我这里讲到的是 Remember you are not alone。 其实很多留学生在疫情之下他们会遇到很多的困难，比如说网课的时候发现自己不能适应，或者说自己在生活当中太孤独了无处发泄，所以他们当时就会觉得说，哎，是不是只有我一个人有这样的感受，是不是我是一个特例？但是我想要说的是，其实所有的留学生他都在面临同样的问题，我们所有人都是第一次面临网课，第一次面临可能两边的疫情完全截然相反的这样的情况，所以当你遇到这样一些难处的时候，去把它说出来。如果你没有办法自己消化的话，你可以跟你的父母说，如果时差不允许，你可以跟你的朋友，或者你甚至可以跟你的教授、你的 TA， 因为他们在那里的作用不只是帮助你去学习，更加是帮助你去如何调动你的一个积极性。所以我觉得去合理的或者说去有效率的去跟别人沟通，我觉得是维持心理健康非常非常重要的一部分，千万不要害怕，也千万不要害羞。然后第2点也就是 physical health。 那么 physical health 当然在疫情下是非常非常重要的，我们也知道现在我们所有人都希望千万不要感冒啊，千万不要生病，因为现在生病很麻烦。那首先第1点我觉得这个是挺好笑，我当时在写的时候我觉得挺好笑，我这里想的就是说其实早饭是非常重要的。那为什么这么说呢？因为在疫情下我们会发现上了网课之后，我个人的感觉是其实早上的时间会变多，因为你没有必要再去赶那些早8早9的课，你可能可以睡到个7点半然后再起来，然后直接在网上上课，所以这个时候其实给了你很宽裕的时间让你去吃一顿很好的早饭。而当你有一顿很好的早饭之后，你会发现其实1天的活力和精力就被调动起来了，比起你天天如果早饭不吃然后就一直饿着肚子，那这时候其实你的学习积极能动性也会下降。然后第2点呢，是我觉得是非常关键的一点，也是在疫情之下我觉得所有留学生包括所有老师同学都需要注意的一点，就是 stop anxiety。 当你有一些小感冒，或者说当你前1天没有睡好，你头晕，其实大家都会有一种感觉，就是完了我是不是得新冠了。其实我觉得这是很正常的一种反应，因为在我回国的时候，我当时要申请那个绿码，那可能在我去做双阴检测的时候，我可能觉得我好像这2天不太舒服，完蛋了，我是不是回不了国了。那当你有这样一种情绪的时候，你会非常的焦虑就是一定首先是焦虑，然后就是甚至会大哭一场，或甚至是压力无处泄放。所以我觉得这个时候就要放平一个心态，当然不是说不去重视这个病毒，因为这个病毒确实是很可怕，但是当你去做好所有的防疫工作之后，如果你有一点点小的不舒服，千万不要就直接去把它放大，去把它联想。然后第3点我觉得是非常非常关键的一点，就是一个人在国外读书的时候，你的一个睡眠时间。在上网课的时候，其实会发现你的所有时间，你的把控性会更加的大，因为没有老师会在你耳边，或者每天去上课的时候有同学跟你说你要做这个，所以这个时候你要自己去合理安排好你的工作时间，你的睡眠时间。那可能对于我来说，我是一个 early bird， 所以我会可能是比较 early person， 所以我可能是早晨比较有活力，那所以我晚上会早点睡。那对于有些人来说，可能他们是一个night person， 所以他们晚上会更加有活力。那么这时候就需要你自己去安排好自己的生活，有规律的过生活，才能够让你的学习变得更加有规律。那最后呢，我要说的也是着重一点，也就是 academic health。那么这里呢，我用到的是 online learning。那么当然，我为什么这里用 academic health instead of academic success？因为我会发现其实学术的成功它建立在你有一个积极良好健康的心态去面对你的学习，而不是一个非常焦躁焦虑或者得于求成的这样一种感觉。那么其实所有人我们大家都是第一次面临网课，对于我个人而言，可能从来没有在网上上过课，以前在网上上课可能是有选择的，因为你可能一个兴趣班你没有办法赶到，你在网上听录屏。那现在这样的一种情况下，网课是变得是一种别无选择。那所以这个时候大家就会有一种哎呀怎么办，我就网课该怎么办，我一个人待在家里，我也不知道现在该听还是不听。那么首先第一点我总结出来的就是一个 schedule， 或者2个我连在一起说， say no to procrastination。那么 procrastination 就是一种拖延症，这是很正常的一种，我觉得是可能所有留学生在某一个阶段都会有，甚至是工作了之后实习的时候你也会有一些小拖延症，这是非常正常的一种情绪。 但是呢，你会发现，当你有一个 schedule， 当你有一个 checklist， 你每一天有这样一个把自己的生活安排好的时候，你的 procrastination 就会减缓。那为什么我在这里想要说，在疫情之下，其实 procrastination 是更加致命的呢？因为这个时候你不需要出门上课，你也没有同学会跟你说，哎，今天晚上这个作业要交，你别忘了。所以当这种情况下的时候，你会发现，一旦你开始拖延，那这个拖可能就是拖到期末，可能你12周的录屏没有听，然后到3天之前才会发现，哎呀，完蛋了，明天要交一篇 paper， 或者说，哎呀，完蛋了，明天要考一个试。所以这个时候是更加需要你有一个每周、每日，甚至是每个月的一个计划，去维持你的一个学习的一个健康能动性，而不是到最后一天 ，OK， I cram to the last week，OK， 我最后7天开始拼命学，你这时候发现你的身体也不行了，你的心理健康也崩溃了，然后你所有一切都没有了。然后第3点呢，就是很重要的一点，就是 solve your problem right away。千万不要当你发现你跟不上这节录屏课，你跟不上这节网课，你再等一等，你再觉得说算了，我再等1周，我再等2天，再去问教授。不，如果你是昨天的问题，希望你今天就可以去发 email 去解决，是最起码也是这1周去把这件事情解决完，因为你会发现你的问题一定是日积月累的，你一定不可能积小成多，它一定不可能是明天就能够解决的。所以当你发现自己跟不上的时候，一定要做的一件事情就是去想解决办法，而不是在那里抱怨，或者说有一个情绪病。第4点，我觉得是我今年总结出来的一点，我曾经大1、大2、大3我自己也会有一点，因为我今年上了一节课，它是佛教心理学，我是心理学专业的，所以其实这一点我觉得是给所有学弟学妹的一个劝告，是 nothing can be done perfectly, so stop craving. Notice here, I used the word craving, 我用的是一种强烈的欲望 for perfection in an assignment。是千万不要去当一个10%的作业，你把它当成你的人生的一个作业去做。很多的同学可能会觉得一个10%的作业我没有拿到我想要的一个成绩，我要去据理力争，我要去因为这个10%我觉得我毕不了业，我觉得我 GPA 会从3.8掉到2.8。没有，人生这个作业在你的整个人生里面可能它就是一个非常小的点，而比这个更重要的是你每天过得开不开心，你有没有发现美好的事情。所以我觉得这一点是维持不只是你的学术健康，也是你的心理健康，甚至会牵扯到你的身体健康的一点。当你发现自己在一个作业上没有做到最好，把目标放在下一个作业上，而不是在这个作业上用尽你的全力想要去改变已经可能无法改变的一个现状。所以 stop craving for perfection, move on, just look forward and move on。然后最后呢，我想来总结一下，就是当我现在坐在这个上海隔离酒店，然后我回看过去的这1年，我发现为什么我会说刚刚我说我的一个主题是 yes but no， 为什么最后落脚点会在于说我没有后悔我当时的决定。首先第一点是因为我发现我学会了 learn to play with all this negative emotion， 我用的这个词现在变成 play， 因为我觉得这些 negative emotions 其实他们就像小宠物一样，可能有的时候会来你知道像小猫一样来碰你一下，然后又躲开，所以这个时候你要学会的是不是把它扔出去啊，这是不可以的，你把它扔出去它还是会回来。这个时候你要学会的是跟他们在一个房间里共存，然后学会去从他们身上找到一些你可以找到的一些小技巧，让你在不希望他们来打扰你的时候，让他们乖乖的待在一旁。然后第2点呢是学会了在 academic success 之前，先把自己的 well-being 放在第1位，先让自己开心，先让自己的心理身体健康，然后包括刚刚我说的学术健康之后，你会发现其实顺其自然，水到渠成，你的 academic success 它一定是会给你呈现的。然后第3点呢，也是我觉得是可能是整个我的分享的一个最后的一个落脚点，就是 learn to live with yourself。因为我觉得这一点是在疫情下所有人，其实我们大家都在学习怎样在一个屋子里，包括我现在在隔离，我更加是一个人在一个房间里没有办法出去，所以这一点是非常关键，就是怎样和自己去相处，不管是怎样在玩的时候和自己玩，在学习的时候让自己更好的融入学习，在孤单的时候给自己讲故事，等等等等这样的事情，怎样和自己去相处，我觉得是疫情下我在多伦多这短短可能8个月的时间里学会的一个 可能让我终身都能够得益的一个本领。谢谢大家，然后也希望今天我的这样一个短短的比较接地气的一个分享会可以给所有学弟学妹或者现在还在多伦多一个人相处的同学们一点点小小的启发和帮助。谢谢大家，谢谢老师。
非常感谢，非常感谢皎洁，我觉得你很勇敢，非常勇敢你的这个所有的这个就像你提到的这个 anxiety、uncertainty 这个 responsibility， 这些其实不光光是年轻人现在这样经历的这些一些感受，成人也是一样的。但是我觉得你分享了很多非常实用的这些 tips 小贴士，就像是跟一个邻家的一个好朋友在一起聊天一样的跟大家分享我觉得你太棒了，非常非常精彩的分享。而且还有一点我觉得你说的非常好的，就是一个academic health， 就是你的一个心态还有你这个适应能力，我们每个人的适应能力。所以呢我一直认为就是 there is pro and con for everything。 所以疫情虽然很不幸，但是在疫情中你学到这么多东西，而且这样开心的跟大家分享，非常感谢你。谢谢。等一下还有问题问你哦。好，接下来我们 next we have amazing speaker Chen Liu. He's the previous AVP Finance at the McMaster Students Union. He's the previous intern at RBC and Wells Fargo. And he will share with us why he thinks writing is super important in job application. Please take it away, Chen Liu.
Thank you very much, Danielle. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. So good evening, everyone. I hope you're all doing well. I just wanted to see perhaps if you can show with a show of hands virtually using the little hand emoji. How many of you are considering a career in finance or accounting? Okay, so quite a bit. A lot of you are considering a career. Okay, very good. That's really excellent because I personally, I've had a lot of experience, well, not a lot of experience, but for someone who just graduated a couple of weeks ago, I do have a fair amount of experience working for banks. I started off in 2018 at RBC, and the role that I had was not related in finance. I took the role because I wanted to get my foot in the door and I wanted to see what the corporate culture was like. And so from there, summer 2018, I worked at Wells Fargo as a credit analyst, looking at financial statements from May 2019 to May 2020. During this time, I also had an opportunity to write with the Motley Fool, and I'll talk a little bit more about that and about why writing is so important. And since then, in May 2020 to May 2021, I worked as the AVP Finance for the McMaster Students Union. And in this capacity, I was responsible for auditing 5 different groups that receive over $200,000 from students. And so that was part of my mandate for the year. And then now I got an offer from Scotiabank as a client service associate in commercial banking. So I'll be joining them starting May 31st. So let's just get started. It's great that you all a lot of you want to do finance and accounting. I think one thing that people don't understand and that they don't realize is writing is very, very important for a career in finance and accounting. In the interviews that I've been to, and I can talk a bit more about that later on. I'll show you the companies that I've interviewed with, and you're more than welcome to ask questions during the panel. They all wanted to know about my writing skills because for all of these organizations, most of the communication you do is actually over email, not face-to-face. And so it's important that you're able to convey what you want to convey in a way that's that they can understand. So let's go ahead and start. So I wanted to talk a bit about, Jason talked about, volunteering. So I wanted to talk a bit about extracurricular activities at school. And so I think what's very important is first year university, you want to try to join a club and you don't have to go for an executive position. Although if you do want to, I encourage you to do that because university is all about failure and it's all about trying stuff. And sometimes you're not going to get something, but sometimes you will. So I can tell you an example just right now with HSBC. I interviewed with HSBC 4 times since February 6th. So I've had 4 different interviews over 3 months with HSBC, and I ended up turning down from all of the interviews. And what comes out of that is, obviously I was a bit sad I didn't get the job, but you do learn a lot through these experiences. And so I would encourage everyone to join the clubs that interest them in university, because that's how you can find out if something is for you. There's a finance club, there's an accounting club. I was part of the Degree Operations Association. I thought I wanted to do supply chain management, but I decided it was not for me. And the only way that you can realize these things is by participating in the different clubs at your school. I know some of you are in high school yet, so you haven't really applied for everything, but perhaps we can talk about that on another call. So I'm just going to go ahead and talk a little bit about extracurricular activities outside of school. I agree with Jason. I think that what they look at when you look at job applications, for the most part, people are going to have similar GPAs and they're going to have similar work experience as you. What really sets you apart is, number one, I would say entrepreneurship, or it doesn't even have to be a business. You could start a club, you could start just some sort of nonprofit or some sort of volunteer organization. And the reason why this sets you apart is because there's a lot of work that goes into starting these kinds of organizations. And there's a lot of work that goes into leading these kinds of organizations. And so the two ways that you can make yourself look different compared to the other people that are trying to get the same job as you is you either join a club, you take an executive position, and eventually you get a president's role or a VP finance role, or you can start your own organization and get enough people involved so that you're leading a group of people. Because what employers are interested in is they want you to work in a team, and they want to see how well you're able to work in a team, and if you can lead and if you're able to follow and stuff like that. So a little bit about the Motley Fool. Some of you may have heard of it, some of you may have not. I don't know how interested you are in stocks, but they're a global investment publication. So they're in the United States, they're in England, Canada, Germany, Australia. They used to have an office in Hong Kong, but they shut down recently. And basically what I did for them is I wrote an article a day. I chose any stock that I wanted to, as long as no one else was writing about that stock. I researched, I looked into their financial statements, and I basically summarized the information, and I made a suggestion to investors. And what I got from this was, these articles were about 500 to 700 words, and my audience was very entry-level people. And so what I learned to do is I learned to take very difficult concepts and write them in a way that people like you and me can understand. And what I would encourage everyone to do, if possible, is to see if you're able to write. I don't know if you can, this can be a journal entry before you go to bed. You could do some writing for a blog that you like. You can start your own blog, or you can even do some writing for your friends. Maybe your friend writes something for you and they write, and then you write something for them. But the reason why I say it's important to do this writing, and perhaps to get into a habit of just trying to improve on your writing and realizing and thinking about what it is that you're writing. When you get into the workplace, it's very difficult. If you're not talking to someone, that email that you send has to be able to convey your tone. And in order to do that, you have to be able to choose your words wisely. You have to be able to structure the sentence in a way that demonstrates what you want to say. And all of this takes time. And so the best way to start writing is just through practice. And once you start practice, once you start getting comfortable, you got to share your writing with other people and have them give you feedback on it. I believe this is the best way for you to improve. And once you reach a level where you do have that confidence in your writing, then that's great. I'm just going to go ahead and so switch over. And so I just want to show the screen to you very quickly. These are the different companies that I've interviewed with. And so when you do toward the panel, if you have some questions about the interview process or any of the questions I was asked, feel free to let me know. And well, thank you very much. I'm going to go ahead and pass it back.
Well, thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for sharing. I'm sure I'll have some more questions to ask you in the panel discussion. You talk about the teamwork. You talk about, it's important to have a habit, right? You love writing, and how writing is so important in terms of communication with others, right? That's how they see you first. So thanks for sharing. Next, we have Matthew as our presenter.
Hi there, my name is Matthew, and I'm very glad to be given this opportunity to present today. Let me just share my screen here.
Thank you.
Here we go.
I believe your topic is a very good topic, lead and sell.
Yes. So today because personally I've been working mostly in the fields of sales. The field of sales. So like I wanted to kind of take this presentation. How can I start this? Okay, there we go. So personally, I wanted to take this presentation through like the standpoint, the perspective of sales. So currently, a little bit about myself. As like I'm sure it's already written in my profile. So up to April, I was working for Ccaa Chemicals. It's a surface treatment surface finishing chemical company that's based in Japan. And that's actually where I spent most of my career up to this point. And so I'm actually heading to Thailand starting June. And I'm still working in the same field. And yeah, I'm actually moving really soon, like June 10th. So like actually I'm quite a tight schedule preparing for this presentation, because I'm currently like, yeah, I'm trying to prepare my visas and like getting my stuff ready. I actually have quite a bit of stuff to move. So yeah, currently I'm working for McDermott and Thone Industrial Solutions, Thailand. If you're interested in the company, you can search it up online. We're actually a public company. Our ticker is ESI. Yeah. So getting into the topic, this is pretty much the what I'm perhaps I would like to cover today. And as written on like the top of the slide, I think that you are always like selling, no matter like what job, what career you're picking. If you're not actually in sales trying to sell a product, you're selling the product, which is yourself. And especially you'll kind of like, I think up to, wait, what is this? The mentor is trying to remotely access, wait, sorry.
We can see your screen just fine.
Okay. I was having some technical issues. Anyways, so yeah. So I think you would really like kind of experience this firsthand once you start your interviews, because when it comes to interviews and when you're actually looking for a job, that's selling yourself is actually precisely what you're doing. And so today I would like to look at some things you could do in preparation for that. And so first you'd be like, yeah, how to like increase your value, your personal value, and what you should perhaps prepare meanwhile while you're still in school. And finally, your sales pitch, which is basically some tips I have once you actually get to the interview stage. So first, explaining, so when it comes to leadership, I know that that's like one of the main topics today for today's session. And I actually really agree with the opinions. I share the opinions of our second presenter today, Mr. Zhou. And I do think that when it comes to leadership, the whole idea of leadership in North America right now is actually defined really, really vaguely, and everyone's somehow like expected to become a leader. But one of the big things that I can think about like leadership is that no one's going to be led by you if you don't have any experience. And there's only a number of like positions for people like that like to like leading. So like management positions, like there's only a limited amount of those positions. And so what like, and if like I use like a photo from the 1957 movie 12 Angry Men here. So if there's a room full of leaders that actually like and you like kind of you don't have the experience of leading, what's going to happen is everyone's their own leader, and you have this entire room of 12 angry men just like yelling at each other. And I think one of the first things you could definitely do is to lead yourself. Mm-hmm. And getting into the habit of leading. And so one of the things that a lot of companies and a lot of project teams use is this PDCA sheet. And so what PDCA stands for is P is planning, D is do, C is what is C? Actually, I can't remember. Anyways, and so basically what this represents is I think that what we could do, like leading yourself in like a daily manner, is you could set up a plan for like the smallest thing. For example, you could be like talk to 10 people you don't know or something like that, and or like complete like an assignment within next week or something. It could be, or read a book every month. It could be something as simple as that. And what you would do is you would put in the date here and write down your task. And it has to be like something specific. It needs to be like an attainable goal. And I think that's one of the most important parts of like setting goals, is that they need to be like tangible, and they need to be like something that's specific. And so, and then like in the next column, you would write what you would expect. And then after like you've completed the task, you summarize what happened and what you gained from the experience, and summarize some of the issues and the problems you encountered. And then you would go all the way back to planning again for your next assignment. So I think that this is something that many companies use, and I think that getting into habit of doing this would definitely help you in like further like leadership and management positions, and even with like just simple tasks. And the second point here is again experience. I think that what definitely experience speaks louder than anything, and that by accumulating experience, eventually you'll like gain the skill set and like the abilities that you need required for like positions of leadership. And finally, I think one of the bigger parts of like the vaguely defined leadership that we're experiencing today, and actually it's kind of a good thing that the term leadership in North America right now is so vaguely defined, to a point that you basically can make it anything. And one of the things that I consider to be like an easy way to like, I guess, to demonstrate leadership is taking a path that's less traveled by other people. And it shows your initiative. And that's one, yeah, initiative is definitely one of the keywords when it comes to leadership. It shows your initiative, that you're willing to try different things and you're willing to do things that other people don't do. And that's, I think it's a quite simple and easy way to have like some experiences that kind of fall into the category of leadership. And this could be like, I mean, it could be anything. For like, you could be like, let's say you could be exchanging abroad, going to a place or like a country and learning their culture, that people around you that like don't really, not everyone has that experience. And it could be something like a volunteering and working for like an NGO or something. So yeah. And next, I would like to talk about the valuation, increasing the value of the product, which in this case, the product is yourself. And to summarize everything, it's just 3 words: to identify, maximize, and to abuse the value. And so when it comes to identification, I like what I think my previous company used, and also like I think that could be really useful in like a personal standpoint, is this SWOT analysis sheet, where you analyze your strengths, your weaknesses, and your opportunities that would come from your strengths, and your threats that would come from your weaknesses. And by doing this, you can find the best way to how to like further send and maximize the opportunities your strengths can create for you, and you can I guess implement them and apply them to a maximum extent, and how to like work on your weaknesses and to avoid a lot of the issues that your weaknesses might cause you. And one of the things that I think that's that I guess that I personally believe in is if let's say you have 2 things, one thing that you're really good at and another thing that you're not good at but you really like. it's a really what you call it? It's a really conflicting and like situation in that case. But like I personally would go for the thing that I am good at, because it's always easier to work on something you're already good at. That's something you have like a clear advantage over other over your peers, than working on something that perhaps you're just like not talented in. And like I'm speaking of this in a career standpoint. It's something like that you like could, I mean, having a good career doesn't mean that you can't have your own interests and hobbies, and like you could always put the things that you like as more of a side to your actual career. And I think that when it comes to your careers and your like future, you should always abuse the strengths you have. And and amongst many of you listeners, I would say that definitely one of your strengths would be your linguistic capabilities. I know that most of you can speak, I think, more than 2 languages, and you actually have no idea how big of an advantage that is, because I currently work in Japan. I'm still in Japan right now. I'm in Tokyo, and I can say 95 to 98% of the population here only knows how to speak Japanese. And especially with coming with like the age of globalization, almost every company, like medium or like large size company, has their branches like all over the world, and how everything's interconnected with internet these days. I think that knowing multiple languages, and especially when these languages are Chinese and English, because English is a language that's most like widely used across the globe, and Chinese is the language spoken by the most people in the entire world. So that definitely plays in like one of the biggest advantages of, I guess, all that are here, that that would help you a lot in your upcoming careers and even academics.
Mhm.
And another commenting again, like on maximizing your strengths, is let's say if imagine a situation where Mozart, instead of making music, like playing piano, violin, instead he decided to like play football, or like do something like that. He could like it as much as he does, but like at the end we probably might have like not like probably none of us would ever hear of the name Mozart again, right? So yeah, that's and again, I would like to stress that this is my personal opinion, and I think it's great that if you decide to do something you like, but at the same time, personally, I think that moving with your strengths and keeping the things that you like, your interests as an interest, is always like also a good option. And next, especially when it comes to job searching, and even when you're going in for your interview for your university or post-secondary education, one of the biggest parts is understanding the market and providing a fair quotation of yourself. You need to know, like, again, it comes back to that SWOT analysis sheet. You need to understand your personal value of your strengths and weaknesses, and how the market values those strengths. And your added value, which is understanding your competitors and knowing that your advantage over your competitors, over your peers. So what do I have that other people from my major, other people from my school don't have? And how can I use this and how can I play this to my advantage? And shown in this photo right here is a really popular hotel chain called Formula One. I think it's mainly based in Europe. And there was this, this is like a case study that we learned back in when I had our sales training. And it basically talks about when this, why this branch is so successful in Europe. Because when they first did their market research, a market study on who their customers were, they realized that a lot of their customers were these truckers that drove trans-Europe, and they needed a place to stay in between their shifts. And when they noticed that, like when they realized who they were catering to, and they understood what their customers' demands. And in this case, they actually did like a survey study. And in this survey, they were basically they took a few parameters such as a good breakfast, a good bed, a good location, and what else, like good service and things like that. And in the end, due to their customer demo, like their customer base, what they realized that they needed was a good bed and good access, because a lot of these truckers, they don't really care about the breakfast. They don't really care about the service. All they want is a place to crash in, a really comfortable place to stay in, and get along with their job the next day. And so what ended up happening, they like when it comes to like this hotel chain, they have like a really simple like a breakfast bar that's like probably only has cereal or something. And they cut down the costs and everything else. So they basically, what they're doing here is they're kind of embracing their weaknesses. And at the same time, they put in like really comfortable beds and really good like accessible locations. So what they're doing here is they're maximizing their strengths towards the customer base, towards the market that they're targeting to. And this eventually made them, like, I think one of the biggest chains in Europe at the present day. And the second point is proving your value. So a lot of times, like, half of the things that you write on your resume, especially with how resumes are made in are like written in North America. One of the things is people tend to add a lot of things and tend to like exaggerate about a lot of their experiences, just to, you know, I don't know what the word is here for to like I guess over glorify their to make it seem better than what it actually is. A lot of times they might have worked for like a let's say they went on a trip to Africa and they wrote, we did like NGO charitable like activities in Africa and stuff. And so a lot of times, like when employers look at your resume, they look at it with a grain of salt. They don't trust everything word by word, and it's understandable. So I think this is where the second point comes like into importance, where like it's always good to, let's say you play piano, then it's always good for you to, it's always better for you to get like, let's say you do like a grade 10 in piano and have something that's tangible, have something that's, that objectively can prove that value, that skill set of yours. And for example, you speak the language French. I think there's a French like proficiency test or something. And for second language English speakers, you could always do TOEIC or like TOEFL or something like that to actually to have those things as proof of like these skills, and those things that like are actually looked upon with more like objectivity. And the third point, I kind of covered this already, understanding your competitors. Basically, you could, you know, chat with your peers, chat with other people that are applying for a certain position, and kind of understand them and have like a general grasp of where is everyone at, and at the same time, what you can do to basically beat your competitors. And eventually, this all connects to your interview, because actually, when you're in your interview, a lot of the times, many of the times, your interviewer would ask you this question: what is your expected salary? And this question, although it might seem like really simple, it might seem straightforward. And of course, every person like looking for a job, anyone who works wants like a bit as big of a salary as possible. You want to say like, I want to have like 100,000 or something. I don't know, like 200,000 annual income. Like everyone wants that. But at the same time, what the interviewer is actually looking for when they're asking you this question is if you correctly value yourself. If you know how much you're worth in the market. And so if you give them a price that's too high, what's going to happen is they're going to think that you're way over your head. They would think that you don't understand your own value, and they would think that it's a mismatch, because the price that you're willing to receive and the price that they're willing to pay is a mismatch, and that would definitely jeopardize your chances. And if you provide them with a quote that's too low, it's just, I guess it's just not good for you. And also at the same time, it comes back again to the point of like your own valuation. So my next point is when you're in school, so a lot of people don't know what you want to do. So when I was back in university, I've actually always, like, I think I wanted to become a doctor, and but well, like, obviously looking at me like today, like I'm not, I'm working in a completely different field. And this is because I guess when you're when I was like, I guess when I was in high school, even when I was in university, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. And again, so, and I don't think that you should particularly worry about this because, again, as I said, like, I have like a image of like a box of chocolates here, and as they say, life is a box of chocolate, a box of chocolates, and you really don't know what you're gonna get next. And the experience from going to that stage to when you actually move on to graduating to like going into work, eventually, like, you'll find a chocolate from this box that you really like, and it could be like something that's really like tasty that you feel like, oh, this is what I like, and or it could be something really expensive and you're like, oh, this is so yeah, you might find something in that box during this entire process. And I think that, and I myself have like changed my my path, like my career path multiple times, and I do consider it's like never too late to change like your change your direction. And I think a couple of years ago there was this German woman who got her PhD when she was like close to 100 years old. So yeah, I think that don't worry like too much that you don't know what to do yet. And even if you know what you're going to do, you want to do at this point, don't be that certain. Always keep like an open mind, and just be like open to like all that comes, all the opportunities that come along. And one of the good things to like the things that you could do to test the waters is the electives that you have in your secondary school, in your college, and your university. Those courses there are specifically there for this reason. And I myself graduated from the University of Toronto. And so back then, I think we had to have, like, in order for us to obtain our degree, we needed courses like in our major, like a certain amount of credits within our major, a certain amount of credits in humanities, a certain amount of credits in social sciences. And that's like precisely is what you do this, where you do this. And by taking like all these different courses, like don't blow them off and think that which one's like an easier credit or whatever. Think about it more from like I guess a long-term scale, where you think that I might like social sciences, I might like philosophy, but personally, I like coming from a science background, I have to get to like our third point, which is if you don't exactly know what you want to do, I would recommend science. This is very like coming from like myself. People might like, I know that many people might want to go into arts, and that's fine. That's totally fine. I'm just speaking completely from my own opinion, which I recommend the STEM field. And why is that, you ask? Is mainly because, okay, so I have this chart down here. I think it's from it's the 2018 figures from the US. And you can see that the most high paying jobs are mostly in the STEM field. And at the same time, when I was looking for jobs in Asia and Japan, one of the things that I realized is, so in this Japanese job fair, all the arts students, the graduates, were asked to wear this red ribbon around their neck. And all the science majors were asked to wear this yellow ribbon. And when I went for like interviews and went to these company introduction sections, for different companies, I've noticed how like a lot of the people around me were wearing like these red ribbons. And I was amongst like the fewest that were wearing these like yellow ribbons. And this might only be like a thing in, I guess, in Asia, because I think it applies less to North America. But companies, especially when you're trying to work for the, I guess, like there are a lot of companies in the industrial field. And when you're trying to work for those companies, they tend to prioritize people with a science background over arts background. And I do think that in that sense, going, I'm sure like back in the day in China, they had the saying where I actually can't remember the saying, but anyways, it was saying that 如果不知道选什么就选理科. Like I think there's something like a saying like that, and how like with those two, like science is the one that's easier to land you a job, and in many aspects, I think that's true, especially when it comes to Asia. And when you're approaching graduation, and even like right now, what you want to do is exploit all your resources. And when it comes to studying, I would suggest study groups. I myself, I was an straight A student all the time, so I can't really speak that much about studying. But I do find it like a lot easier to when you study in groups, because it kind of keeps you focused on studying. And when I would go back to my room and try to study myself, what happens is I end up playing League of Legends. And so and while you're in university, another really important thing is to try to create as many connections as possible. And this is something that I really started to regret after I graduated, because I wasn't actively out there trying to create more connections and to know more people. And the importance of this is actually recently when I was working, we were talking about this new ISO approval, and I noticed how like this the person who decides what like these ISO approvals were actually was a professor at the university. And if you can, and many of your professors and sometimes you're like the people in your faculty, they might play a really important role actually in the business world too. And creating those connections early on, if you can approach them early on, would actually having those connections would never hurt you, and they would actually bring forth a lot of opportunities later in your life. You may never know. And another thing that you want to use is your institute's career center. I posted the screenshot of the CLN here because I graduated from U of T. And so many of your universities or your schools have these career centers, which is something that that you could really, I guess, to explore and see what they have to offer, and actually start, gathering and creating these opportunities for experiences for yourself early on. And finally, when it comes to hiring resources, I posted a few. So one of the things that I think that one should start early on is your LinkedIn profile, because LinkedIn is huge. Well, less so in Asia, but more so in North America, Europe, where it's something that I think it's kind of like your updated resume, where you're constantly updating, and people actually, believe it or not, a lot of people actually get hired through LinkedIn, where a company looks at their profile page and are interested, and they eventually set up an interview through LinkedIn. So this is kind of like your I guess Facebook for in the business world, and it's companies are the Facebook stalkers. They stalk you and they're like, we're interested in you. And so a lot of the opportunities might just come by themselves. And I think that having a decent amount of activity on your LinkedIn and being active on your LinkedIn page would really play towards you finding a good career, and would construct on that. And one of the things that I realized after I landed my first job was what happened is my employer almost immediately checked up my checked out my LinkedIn page after my second interview or something. And the other two institutes that I have here, one is Robert Walters. This is like a head hunting company, and I've been working with them for my previous year, and I personally am like really satisfied with them, and they are constantly I think they have branches in China, Japan, and I think definitely North America, and they're actively looking for people with international backgrounds that can know how to speak multiple languages. They might require a little bit of experience, but I'm not really sure. But personally, I find them to be really helpful, and they give you really like personalized recommendations. And I actually found my current job through Robert Walters. So that's just one of my recommendations. And one below that, it only applies to Japan. If any of you are considering of working in Japan, there's this thing called Mainabi, Kokusai Shūshoku. And what it does is it has this, currently due to the COVID situation, I'm not sure if they're doing it right now, but every year they would have this careers fair where all these companies that are hiring will actively search for candidates at this fair. And a lot of the companies will do like your interview the second day you go to that that career fair. You would go there and listen to like a lot of the like the explanations and the like introductions of like of these all these companies, and if after submitting your like resume and your documents, they may ask you to come in the second day to interview you, and probably ask you to come in one more day for like the third day for your final interview. And you could like, I actually secured my first job just like that in 3 days in at one of these fairs. So if you're looking for a job in Japan, and this only applies to Japan, so that would also be a really good option. Upon graduation. So one of my tips after graduation is to stay busy. There's so in Japan, there's this kind of phenomenon called the shinsotsu phenomenon. Well, what it means is freshly grad. And so this period of time is when you first graduated from university, and what they look for is what you do after this period. And the most ideal situation is you can go from graduation directly into a job. That's definitely the most ideal situation. And although and the more time you leave between your graduation and finding a job and being hired and working for a company, the harder it is for you to find a job in Japan. So you don't want a lasting blank period in between those two. And even within countries that this doesn't apply, let's say in Canada, I don't think they really care if you graduated and look for a job immediately. But I think it also plays into the one's own mentality as well. Like if you are actively looking for something to meet and trying to keep yourself busy right after graduation, or are you just doing nothing for an entire period? And I think that proportionally actually plays into how easy or how hard it is to actually for you to find a career or opportunity. And again, I don't think there's such thing as a menial job or something that's not worth doing. And the photo up to the photo in the top here is actually me teaching a bunch of kindergarten kids of teaching them science. And this was in Suzhou, China. And this was my first job. And so I actually through my first job, it was a great experience. And that really gave me a year's time of sitting down and thinking that what I actually want to do after.
I'm sorry, Matthew. Sorry to remind you, I have 3 minutes.
Oh,
Thank
really?
you.
Oh,
yeah.
Oh, sorry.
You have 3 minutes. You have 3 minutes.
I wasn't really looking at the time, but yeah. Anyway, so and so going into my recommendation. So I think that one of the things that you could look into, if you want to look for a year off after graduation, is actually becoming a teacher or an English teacher or in China, because that it actually pays really well, and a lot of times they pay all your expenses expenses, living expenses. It's a really laid back, really chill, and you get like this full year to like, sit down and actually consider your options and and meanwhile you're doing something in the process, you're making money. So it's one of the it's one of my recommendations. And after that, I started working in the metal finishing industry. There's a couple photos here. And again, I think don't be limited to where you're at. For example, because you're currently in Canada or you're currently in China, and you're like, I'm only going to find a job, or and you keep your and you're limiting yourself by region. I don't think that. I think that it's always to look further and beyond and look like across the globe to where like there's like opportunities, because in Canada the population is like 34 million, 35 million, and that's a really small market, actually, like, to be honest. And 35 million is actually what like the population here we have in Tokyo, around Tokyo. So just to put it into perspective. So what I'm trying to say here is always don't be afraid to look for opportunities like in other regions, and find where like the chances, the opportunities are at. And finally, a few quick tips for like your interview is when you're in an interview, one of the biggest things is to answer the question. One of the things that interviewers hate the most is when they ask a question and they get this curveball like answer that doesn't really answer their question, and this will almost immediately fail you. This is definitely one of the biggest things. And secondly, you want to think that why are they asking a specific question? And as previously explained with the salary question, when they're asking that question, they actually have other they have a purpose in mind of like what they're looking for in an answer. And thirdly, I think that you should always follow the news and like things that are going around the world. This would create topics and like open up like a whole like a wider like discussion during the interview. And if you can have like these discussions, not just like questions and answers, but actually open up discussions in an interview, this will definitely like increase your chances. And finally, set yourself apart. Think how other candidates are approaching this interview, and try to do something different, because these interviewers they're going over like what 10, 20, 30 people a day, and they're getting really bored. And so setting yourself apart by a joke, or even by like just by something that you wouldn't expect other candidates from doing, would really increase their chances. And that's it. I'm sorry, I think I went a little bit over time.
No, you're doing good. Oh, wow. Thank you. You have amazing content, and they're very practical. And you talk about, okay, when you become a product and you want to sell yourself as a product, it's not always as easy as it seems, right? And then, yes, and you touch on this very important discussion, how to play up your strength and how to play down your strength. I think this reminded me of what you just asked. In Chinese, there's a saying, 你要改正你的不对的地方或者不完美的地方. So we seem to spend a lot of time focusing on the imperfection, right? But whereas we should emphasize on our strength and play up our strength, and spend more time just amplify your strength, and think that probably gives more success, right? And then there's another thing you asked, and you said, oh, the Chinese parents always say 学好数理化走遍天下都不怕. Is that what you're trying to remember?
Yes, I actually like when I was back in college, or when I was back in university, I didn't really believe in that, but it really started after I went through the hiring process and went into like the work world, that I kind of like started, especially in Asia. I think this is more prominent in Asia than other regions.
Exactly. And I think Asian in general, Asian people in general, we are very humble. And you actually, you talk about the sell and lead. It's about personal branding, right? In your career plan, or anyone's career plan, and this is advice to all young people, you start to pay attention to your personal branding, and you start to build now. So what is a personal branding, right? It's what people think of you or talk about you when you're not in the room. This is your promise. This is your reputation. This is your visibility, marketability, and credibility. So it's very important. So thank you so much for sharing what you have learned and your journey. Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
So next, we're gonna have a panel discussion. So for all the speakers, please turn on your cameras. We have some questions already in the chat box I can see. And then, so first, here's how this process goes, right? So I'm gonna ask each one of you a question based on your background, your experience, and then we'll have the audience. I'll need everyone help me. I'll need Nelson. Thank you so much being my great co-host. And perhaps Zheng Chen, let's work together to make sure that all the questions are answered properly. So first, I'm going to pick Jason. Jason, you there? So here's a question for you. So again, thank you for sharing your story and your perspective about DEI. And I know that you've gone to Africa, right? I'd like to know more about this. I think the audience will be interested in knowing more. So what made you to choose Africa, and what kind of experience that you have learned?
Yeah, that's a great question. I didn't really touch on it on my presentation, but I actually went to Ghana for 3 months in the summer of my first year. So that was, 4 years ago now. And it was definitely an extremely worthwhile experience. I would definitely recommend it to anyone that wants to enter into the medical space. I did do a lot of work in the clinic, and more so, it wasn't really the work per se that I did that was the most rewarding. It was really the personal connections and the maturity that you gain. I feel like a topic that's not very much discussed and younger students may not really appreciate is really maturity of character when you enter into a field such as that, because you're really dealing with people's livelihoods. Mm-hmm. And so it's more so than just doing well in organic chemistry, let's say. It's really much having that proper bedside table manner and understanding different cultural competencies. And an international trip like that really made me appreciate that. And I hope will really improve my clinical skills in graduate school and future in medicine. So yeah, I definitely recommend it to anyone that wants to enter into the medical space, for sure.
Thank you. Kind of opens your eyes, right? I think I see a question there. So I'm gonna pick that question. I'm gonna ask Jason. This is for Jason from Name Mentor in the audience. I have a question for Jason. Did you have to take pre-entry courses at Western before entering Schulich Business School? Can you talk about your experience on getting into Schulich Business School?
Schulich Business School? I'm not in Schulich Business School.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So I think that's probably meant for somebody else.
Unless they might have meant my research position at the Schulich.
I think I think that's a research position. Yes, I think you talk about the dentistry, right?
Yeah. So I have a research position at the Schulich School of Medicine and Dentistry, and I guess I could speak on how I got that position if that was the question. So I would say that as you're in class, I forgot who mentioned this, but don't be afraid of reaching out and building those relationships with your professors. And actually, it was one of my professors that I found very interesting. I found her class very, very interesting. And I just cold emailed her. I sent her a resume and I said what my ambitions were and why I wanted to work in the Department of Schulich Medicine and Dentistry, and had a few interviews, and I was lucky enough to have that position. So I guess that the lesson to be learned there is to really not be afraid, and if you're interested, just go after it. University profs are very open to having very avid, keen learners work with them. And so don't be afraid to do more than just learn in class. That's what I would say.
Thank you. Okay, so next I'm going to ask Zhou Zhenbang. Actually, I find that you have a very interesting topic that you share with us, and you're actually being very humble. You have very, you have done some, outstanding GPA. You achieved 3.93 out of 4. Very impressive, right? And one of your designing projects was published on the Toronto Star. And you are very involved in the community work It seems like you've done it all. So my question to you is how you balance all of this, right? Your study, your research, and volunteering work.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks for the questions. And I thought about these questions for a bit, but then I think it sort of ties back to what I said, where I sort of live like a very goal-oriented sort of style, and everything like this is pretty natural. There isn't really like a specific secret or ways for me to balance all these work. Like I don't know. I just find the drive to do them whenever I can. So for me, it's a very relaxing sort of time to do research, to study, because I know I'm getting I'm improving myself, and it's a very rewarding process for me. So I'm not sure like this is a correct response to how to balance it, but I really can't find any specific style that I have for balancing. But hopefully this sort of answers to some degree the question.
Yes, just be yourself, I guess, right? You just, go with the flow.
Right.
Thank you. Okay. Do we have more question for Zheng Bang? Let me just take a look at the chat box and see if I miss anything. I know that earlier there, I think I saw a question about.
Yeah, I just sent the questions 1, 2, 3. That one you can 2 questions for Chen. Right on the bottom. One for Jiao Jian.
Jiao Jian, yeah. So okay, that's good. So we will go when we get there to that point. When we have the open discussion, we'll send these questions. Yes. Okay. So third, I'm gonna pick Jiao Jian. As a matter of fact, I think you've shared a lot of detailed information, lots of intel. I don't think I have any more question to ask you. I'm just curious. So you talk about how to deal with yourself, how to live with yourself, or in that space where you're studying and you're in this space, all by yourself. You feel, a bit of loneliness. Now, do you do any exercise like, dancing, listening to music, or something else? And you can share with us.
Yeah. Should I use English or Chinese?
Both way. 你可以讲中文，说都可以。
Okay. 有，因为我是跳舞的。对，我是跳舞钢琴，就是艺术比从小可能熏陶的比较那个浓一点，所以当然运动锻炼，对，我觉得就像我刚刚说的一样，在那个 physical health 和 mental health 那里，其实很重要的一点就是去找到一个兴趣爱好。我觉得其实疫情其实给了我们一个空间，其实给了一个环境，让你去培养一个兴趣爱好。可能你从前是喜欢跳舞或者唱歌，但是你没有时间。但是疫情其实给了你这个环境，让你可以去在家里，你就要跟着视频啊 just dance with the flow。So， 对，所以我觉得就是一个兴趣爱好，包括写作，我也是一直说到。刚刚我也听到后面几位也有说，就是写作去写一个故事，因为我觉得你能写出一个故事，其实你生活一定是发现很多美。所以我觉得其实很多的兴趣爱好，然后包括锻炼身体是非常重要的，因为它能够让你的 well-being， 让你的 physical health 和 mental health 在一个水平线上。对，所以我很推荐锻炼啊，或者跳舞啊，或者就是瞎蹦，你知道，我觉得都是挺好的一个方式。对，谢谢。
Thank you. I love dancing too. Find a balance, right? 观众席里有一个人问你Jiao Jian说，where are you heading for your next adventure？ 他下一个就是你下一个这个挑战，或者你下一个任务，或者下一个里程碑，你想去哪里，或者是想去做什么事情？
对谢谢这个问题我觉得就是因为我现在是刚刚毕业，那其实我每一年暑假都有回上海。其实我没有在多伦多待过夏天，我每一年暑假都有回上海实习。然后我其实从大一开始实习的地方非常非常多，我有做过在教育机构里教过小朋友，然后也有在电视台里实习然后因为我也是学电影的嘛，所以有电视台里实习，然后也有去年是在 一些国产美妆品牌做公关传播，所以就是有实习过很多很多的地方，然后也有，因为我觉得刚刚有一位同学分享得特别好，我觉得就是真的很多时候你的一个职业其实是跟着你这个时候的心境走的，所以我觉得其实技多不压身，所以我觉得我实习过很多很多地方，那现在目前的话，其实去年回国我是特别想当老师的想要就是在 psychology education 这一块然后去读研究生，但是今年回国的时候，因为疫情的原因，其实国际教育这一块就是有一点点不像我们刚出国那个时候那么的，你知道那么的有热度，所以其实我现在也有在去实习一些就是公关传播部的这样一个大企业里的东西，所以我觉得我个人的一个规划其实是在中国，因为我以后还是在上海，就是应该是会在上海，所以之后的话，可能研究生可能先工作2年，然后再去看研究生，看到时候的一个趋势，可能出国读，可能在香港这样一些地方读，对对对，所以目前的话就是想先实践一下，更就是真正的去融入一下社会之后，再去看之后研究生的一个方向，对对对，谢谢。
你将来想拍电影是吧？做制片人，做导演。
因为我之前电视台实习，包括以前小时候的一些经历，其实都是台前做的挺多的，但是就是之后的话，其实我觉得拍电影这种，我觉得可能要30年之后，等我有一定的这个积蓄之后，才能够去追求这个最后的梦想。那目前的话，我就是希望还是能锻炼自己为主，然后再去找一个未来的一个对最终的一个梦想。对对，
太好了。心态非常好，好，谢谢你So next, I'm gonna call up Liu Chen. So I have 2 questions from the audience, but I'm gonna ask this question first, and then we can expand to the other 2 questions. You've talked about the finding a full-time job opportunities have been greatly reduced in marketplace, right? So I think you've shared a lot of tips in terms of, how to find a professional job, but you've actually done very successfully, kind of almost right after graduation, you landed yourself a job. And you've done a lot of interviews, great tips, right? And then almost make me feel that you're like, okay, I'm going to conquer it. I'm going to conquer it all. Ask me any questions. I'm going to take it, right? So, question number 1, there is a student in the audience saying, I am in university looking for 4-month finance internships. How should you prepare for these types of interviews? And what are some things you think interviews should watch out for? That's question number 1.
Yeah, I think that's a very good question. I'm gonna share a file actually for everyone. So let's see here. So I've interviewed for over the past year. I've interviewed for quite a bit, a lot of different banks, both in Canada and the US. And so I just compiled all the questions that I could remember, and I put them in this document. So every bank is different, and I think it depends on what kind of role you go for. Capital markets roles are much more competitive. So capital markets are investment banking, corporate banking, equity research, sales, or equity trader, fixed income trader. So the best way to prepare, I would say, is apply for jobs that not just you're qualified for, but apply for jobs that may be a little bit outside of your reach. And the reason why I say this is because you never know. I haven't had any backgrounds in corporate banking, but I've been able to get interviews for corporate banking, and corporate banking jobs are very challenging. Those jobs are probably, in terms of coming out of undergrad, the 2 jobs that people want the most is investment banking, which pays around $90,000 as soon as you graduate, and then corporate banking, which pays around $80,000 as soon as you graduate. And so these are very desirable jobs. And I think the best thing to do is just apply for what interests you. Spend time on your cover letter. Spend time, Matthew said, you got to do things to stand out. And I agree. In the interview, the most important thing is for you to show your attitude. You want them, they don't necessarily care about your technical skills as much as your attitude, because technical skills can be trained. But if you come in and you don't have the right attitude, then they don't want you, because they can find someone else who may not be as intelligent as you, but their willingness to learn makes them a better candidate. And so that's the answer to that question.
Okay, thank you. And then you said you have a file that kind of listed all the questions and with the proper recommendation for the answers and that kind of the file you want to share later on?
Yes, yeah. So I already shared the file. These are all the questions that I was asked during my interviews. So feel free to take a look at that. And if you wanted to, save it. And if you ever interview for any of these banks, they'll probably ask you the same questions.
Okay, that's great.
Yes.
In the chat room already.
Okay, that's great.
Yeah,
Thank you.
he put it in the chat room. Chen's already
Okay,
put it in there.
Yeah.
So take advantage of that. Download it before we close the panel. Okay, this is great. Thank you. I think the second question may apply to the answers, because this is asking about if were any of the companies you interviewed for based in the U.S., such as Wells Fargo, Motley. If so, what tips would you recommend for application interviewing to these companies as in Canada? I think there are a lot of similarities, but if there's anything you want to add, please.
Yeah, I think that U.S. companies, people think that you can just apply for U.S. companies and then get them to sponsor you. But the problem is the U.S. companies, they like to hire Americans. And so it's very, very difficult for a Canadian to apply to a U.S. company and get in unless you have a work visa already. And so if you do want to go down to the States, there's a couple of ways you can do it. You can apply for an undergrad in the States, and then you could get a work visa while you're doing your undergrad, and you can do an internship at the States. Or what you could do is you can get a TN visa, and you can just go to the States as soon as you're done graduating. But you want to make sure, if you want more of a certainty that you're going to find a job, then it's important for you to obtain the visa first, and then you can apply for jobs, because they're going to ask you if you're legally authorized to work in the country. And if you put no, then they're not even going to look at your resume.
Yes, very helpful.
Okay, the file already display out. If you cannot download, you can take a pictures of this.
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
How convenient is this?
All the bank, all the interview company already went through all the questions being asked. But the answers you already can talk to Chen.
Exactly. Okay. Now I have there's another question going back to Jiao Jian. When you're ready, it says, what is the biggest difference that you think between working in China versus working in Canada? And which one do you prefer, if not considering the pay?
Okay, I will try my best to answer the question, but I don't actually apply for a job in Canada per se, because I've been there for 4 years, and then every summer I come back to Shanghai. So I don't actually really apply for a job per se. It's I actually do some intern, but it's really short intern. So it's not really official, you have the contracts and those things. But I would say probably based on what I observation with my friends, I think they, I think probably in Shanghai, it's really important for you to have a group for you to join before you join that company. You need to have your connections, and then you need to know what you really want to get in that company, instead of in Canada, probably it's more freedom. But I don't know if freedom is the right word, but I feel maybe that this is a difference. But in Shanghai, for me, because every internship job that I find here is mostly when I communicate with my previous connections, and then we communicate with each other, and then they know my resume and all those things, and I get into that company and do the interview and all those things, and I get into that company. So it's really a different stage for me to get into my final sort of final stage. But in Canada, probably all my friends, I see them, they just apply online, and then they receive an online interview and then all those things. So probably for me, I actually like working here, probably because I didn't really go to Canada before I applied for university. So probably I'm more adapted to the environment in Shanghai, because I think it's more, because I am born here, and then and all those things. So yeah, to me, I think Shanghai maybe, or China maybe more suitable for me. But I think it also depends on different personalities per se.
Mhm. Yeah, I can understand. Thanks for sharing. And you have your connections,
you.
your families, and then of course, opportunities, right? That are more suitable for you. Okay, so I am going to pick on Matthew. Matthew, I actually have seen some questions in the chat box, right? Very interesting your working experience in Japan. I think it's absolutely put things in a lot of different perspective, right? So the question is, how did you find this kind of job opportunity, like working, in a different country, across the globe? Can you share experience in this area? Thank you.
To be honest, when it comes to working abroad in different countries, I think one of the first things you need to do is find out what platform that country is using, because I really can't speak for every single country here. Because in Japan, we have a number of different platforms that Japanese companies usually use, and that's how I did my job hunt, and also how I switched jobs too. So yeah, definitely that's one of the things, and I think knowing the work culture and knowing what is to be like expected in that specific country is definitely important. And if there's anything universal, again, we go back to like LinkedIn. LinkedIn is although less used in Asia, but it's still the most universal thing that I could think of. And I've actually gotten multiple Japanese opportunities through LinkedIn as well. So I think that definitely the first thing, if you're not willing to look into a bunch of different countries and what platforms they use, just stay with LinkedIn. And if you're actually, for example, you really want to work in Japan, then search out their respective platforms that that country uses.
Okay. Yes, I know. I find that if when you're young, if you're able to work in different countries, and that's an asset, I think later on in your life you'd appreciate a lot more, right? So thank you for sharing. So let me see if I have any other questions in the chat box, and then we're going to go to the next one. Let me just scan it very fast. Please bear with me. Yes, there is a question. I think it's a very interesting question. And then let me read. He says, I think it's a general question about, I think I've seen it before. Person says, I hope it's not a dumb question. What kind of programs or majors in university these days will help you find job or land a job? I think that's something like that.
Okay, yeah. So when it comes to this, it kind of differs by university. And again, although I kept on recommending STEMs, like the STEM field, I want to go back to saying that at the same time, although like if you absolutely don't know what you're going to do and you want to go into the STEM field, pick something that you actually have the slightest amount of interest in. Like, don't pick something that, let's say, one of the highest paying jobs is being a petroleum engineer. If you have like no interest in petroleum engineering, like don't just do something purely for I guess like the financial aspects or like the job hunting aspects. But with all that considered, I think that one of the things that let me just share my screen here. You can actually find these statistics. Can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so this is something that I guess you could use as your like reference. So this is the graduation employment and government loan default rates in Ontario by program of study. So it actually shows all of these majors and programs and the percentage of people being employed within 6 months, within 2 years, and it also shows the average. And this, you could use this as like a general, like, I guess like more as a reference. It's just like pure statistics. So like you can look at this and go like, hey, I'm interested in engineering. I'm interested in I don't know, computer science. So yeah, this, you could use this to like just as like a general reference. And amongst those, oh yeah, absolutely. Let me just put this website in chat.
Oh, that's great. Great information. Okay. Okay, so now we're this is a very good group, and want everyone, we have the panel here. This is an open discussion. This is open questions for any of you to expand and then to get your feedback. Because today it's the Leadership and Career Advancement Forum. So I'm going to pick on leadership, right? Leadership takes in many forms, right? It shows in various situations, and it can come from any level. Leadership is not bound to a role, a title, or hierarchy. What is your understanding of the leadership? I know some of you have mentioned and touched on this topic, but I wanted to ask again, and then any one of you can jump on and share us your point of view from the panelists. Anyone volunteer, or should I pick somebody?
So just let you know, Chen just left. He has another call to make.
Okay, maybe I go to Jason.
Yeah, maybe go to Jason.
Sure. Yeah, I could speak about this a little bit. Being as I founded PerPlans in my first year, I think leadership means to really challenge yourself. Because I feel like a lot of times when you want to be a leader, it's sort of like the idea where you just want to be in charge of somebody else. You just want to, like, it's really more than that. I've learned over the last 3 years I've done. It's really, you have to find what drives you. You have to find your purpose in why you're doing what you're doing. And from that, it will allow you to inspire others to join you. Because I've often heard from people that have ended up joining the organization that what really resonated with them was how genuine our outreaches were and what we did for our community was. And it really wasn't for the recognition at the beginning, but it was the great work that ended up being what was recognized. So I would say leadership is really more so than just you wanting to be in charge of something. It should be something that you have a vision for, you have a passion for, that seeps into what others will want to join really in the future. So that's my take on leadership.
Thank you, Jason. Anyone else?
Yeah, just to add on to Jason's comment, I really agree with two words that Jason just said. So one is drive. I think that definitely I mentioned this in my presentation as well. So I think that taking the initiative to setting a goal and setting out steps of attaining that goal plays like a really important role when it comes to leading yourself and getting into the habit of leadership. And at the same time, another word that I really liked from Jason's comment just now was the word join. And again, I think that, yeah, that's definitely the case, because when you're working, you don't say you're working over people. You're working with people. And to become a successful leader, you need to have the experience, the skill set, and have as I mentioned, a goal and a drive and clear roadmap to achieving that goal for people to wanting to join you, to work with you. And I think that kind of summarizes my thoughts in regards to leadership.
I know I heard this a lot. It's called a situational leadership, right? In a situation, you are solving the problems for a lot of people. And, it has nothing to do with if you already have a title or not, but just that shows your capability, your leadership, and you can practice that in any situation you want. So thank you. Thank you for sharing. I know, Matthew, you talk about sell and lead and sell. You talk about, how to sell when you are the product yourself, right? And this is open question in terms of personal branding. If, let's say, you're going to a room and someone asks you, okay, in 1 minute, I want you to tell me what your personal branding is, or what your personal brand is. What would you say? Anybody volunteer can, share with the audience.
Am I being asked this question?
Yeah, for you, and then the rest of the panelists.
Okay, so if I was given, then I guess I'll start first. If I was given that question, I would, again, it comes back to my presentation about the SWOT analysis, because you only have a minute. So you want to kind of filter out like the biggest, your biggest strengths, and at the same time, emphasize on the things that set you apart from like other candidates.
And then, you know what, it's okay if you don't have it now, or if you can't think of it now, it's okay. It would take some time maybe to, some of you already said this, right? Have a better understanding of yourself, right? Like, remember somebody shared with me the SWOT. I think Matthew, you did that, or somebody else, right? The SWOT analysis, right? Yeah. Your strength, your weakness, and how do you play up your strength? So maybe that's a takeaway for all of us, including myself and in the audience. Third, it would be my last question, and this is probably a little bigger than today's subject, right? I'm talking about Canada as a whole, as a country. I believe Canada has a very big potential to be in line as the next Silicon Valley. The reason I'm saying it is, recently I saw some article recently published from Globe and Mail, and it says, as the United States has tightened immigration and become less welcoming, Canada has made a nice policy moves to attract top global talent and capital. So Canada now has 6 times as many skilled immigrants as a percentage of population as our American neighbors do. A significant stats when you consider half of the founders of America's tech unicorns, private companies was 1 billion or more, that's qualified as a unicorn, were born outside the USA, right? So, and then, follow that, I want to have some stats I want to share with you. From 2013 to 2019, 80,000 tech jobs were created in the Toronto-Waterloo corridor alone. Anyone you from Waterloo? I think some of you do. More than in San Francisco, Seattle, and Washington, D.C. combined. That's very powerful data. That's pretty compelling evidence that Canada is winning the hearts and minds of the world's best and brightest for the first time in a generation. Bright future for all of you, bright future for Canada. And I'm hoping that, while we Canadians, we say we're very humble, perhaps there's some catch up to do for all of us. And, my advice is change the narrative about what you are, change the narrative of what we want to do as a country. And hopefully that some of you will probably planning to work for yourself, or like being your own boss, start a company, do a startup company, right? So that's kind of, my last question. Feel free to share if you have a plan, or even I welcome the audience, people in the chat box or people here online, share with us if you wanted to become your own boss. Don't be shy. I know some of you do.
Yeah, I think
the panelists.
those two
panelists.
Exactly, they are very good at things. They create their own, like founded their own club. They can do a lot of things.
I know, you're already entrepreneur. You have the entrepreneur spirit.
Everyone has an innovation mindset already, and entrepreneurship. Right. Okay, maybe go to the round table. Everyone have 30 seconds.
Yeah, 30 seconds actually. You heard of the Shopify,
Let's go for Zhengbang.
Zhengbang, yes.
You have the most potential.
Yeah, exactly. Because you're a thinker. You're a thinker. You have ideas.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I just have to comment on the fact that Canada is being a rising tech country for sure. Definitely, I definitely agree, especially for quantum computing. I don't know, most quantum computing startups are actually here in Canada. We have Xanadu here in Toronto area, and it's very heavily funded by government, as well as a bunch of hedge funds as well. A lot of incubators, a lot of money going into these streams. So definitely promising, especially. Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely hopeful that a lot of opportunity here, especially in the Kitchener-Waterloo region for sure. But But yeah, definitely a lot of things there. In terms of working for myself, I mean, definitely, I think like for me, it's a very gratifying idea just to work on something that you believe in. And I think that's mainly the reason why you want to sort of work for yourself in a sense, especially in academia, right? You want to lead your own projects, some specific things you're interested in. You have the freedom to just go and explore that. That's something very powerful, and definitely a lifestyle that I'm inspired to. But yeah, I mean, that's so far what I can say. But definitely Canada is definitely big on the tech area.
I know. Sure. Thank you for sharing. I know the old saying was, okay, well, the talents follow the capital. I think it should be capital follow the talents, right?
For sure, yeah.
Yes, and then instead of having a brain drain, let's have a brain gain in Canada. Finally.
Yeah, exactly, okay. And it's very important here because we actually have a lot of talents here in Canada. Like ever since, and it just flows to the U.S. mainly because not a lot of opportunity coming out of undergraduates for these students. But I think as more money coming in, we have all these sort of launchpad programs. You can see there from at least from what I can see, Xanadu has an amazing program for undergraduate interns. So if you want to check that out, you can check that out. But we have D-Wave from Vancouver doing the same thing. So a lot of opportunity for undergraduate students. So definitely something you guys should look out for. But yeah.
Yes, maybe next time you're gonna come back and share that subject with all of us.
For sure, yeah.
Yes, share some really important evidence.
So hope that in the next decades, the new entrepreneurs are going to come in from you guys, one of you guys, or many of you guys.
Mm-hmm. I strongly believe that. Any other questions from the chat? 真诚，我们还有时间吗？
时间差不多了
，10分钟了，
还有10分钟，我们现在进入下一个程序。
OK， 时间过得太快了哈。
Thank you all for the panelists. Thank you for your time.
OK, thank you, Daniel， 谢谢你，丹雷。时间过得非常快，我们的时间已经过了2个多小时了。我后来注意到了，我们线上呢，后来先后来了很多的其他的校友会的一些领导。那么他们呢，下面我要报一下他们的名字。他们是贾正杰，北科大加拿大校友会会长；王金忠，北航多伦多校友会会长；还有王慧，西南财大加拿大校友会会长；王小荣，西南政法大学加拿大校友会会长；刘玉海，北林大加拿大校友会会长。还有我们的技术总支持王晓明是浙大的前会长，对你们的到来和到场的支持和指导表示非常的感谢。今天晚上呢，我们这个时间过得非常的快，就是大家分享了这么好的这个信息，你们每一位同学，非常的感谢你们的分享，希望你们的经验呢和经历能够对这个其他人会有所帮助，也希望来的每一位年轻的朋友和同学都能有所受益。下面呢，我要有请我们Ccaa 高校校友联合会的会长程斌会长，也是西安交大多伦多校友会的会长，来给大家做一个总结发言。程会长。
Okay. Hi. Hello, everyone. Dear speakers, guests, leaders from different organizations, and our excellent volunteers, good evening. As the president of Ccaa, thank you very much to make this evening a wonderful and a very rewarding one. Without your support, it's not possible for us to accomplish this. As a father of a college student myself, I feel amazing about our 5 guest speakers: Jason, Jim Bong, Jenny, Chen, Matthew. They are energetic, talented, sincere, and confident. They shared their knowledge, their rich experience, and their thought from different aspects. I learned a lot myself from their well-prepared speech. As a first-generation immigrant, I think they are much more mature, have much more experience than I was at their age. I'm very confident that our second generation will be very successful in this country. We'll have very bright future, no matter where they choose to live and where what they choose to do. I'm very proud of them. As most of you know, Ccaa has hosted and we are hosted a lot of different forum, sports, social culture events, and charity activities to help our community, especially our Chinese alumni community, to do better in this multicultural society of Canada. All of you are welcome to participate in our future events. You are also welcome to join our volunteer team, no matter you are adults, college students, or high school students. This forum, just like us, our other forum, are all series of forums. If you like to become a guest speaker in our future forum to share your knowledge, experience, and thought, please do not hesitate to contact us. Actually, my own son is very excited about that. He will become a future guest speaker. Recently, in order to honor our contribution of our Chinese Canadian community to Canada during this COVID-19, we are now collecting information, conduct interviews in different walks of life. Our goal is to record as much as possible the good deeds of our Chinese Canadian during this pandemic. We try to put all the information we collect into a book, both in Chinese and English. If you have interest in writing certain chapters, conducting interviews, collecting information, doing translations, or even in fundraising, you are very welcome to join our team. Details information about this project and our contact information can be found in our Ccaa website. 最后我用中文说一下，真的非常感谢兄弟院校的和各个兄弟社团的leaders 领导们来支持我们的工作，来参加这个晚会。感谢在座的所有的父母来鼓励他们的孩子来参加我们的活动。我们呢将以后举办各种各样的关于我们第一代移民和第二代移民的这种各种的活动，欢迎大家参加，也特别欢迎我们二代参加。我们这一代实际上是一个作为人梯的一代，我们希望我们自己过得好，我们更希望我们的二代过得好。所以说呢，希望大家继续关注我们高校联合会，也关注我们的家中经贸协会联合举办的各种活动。Thank you very much. Have a wonderful long weekend. Bye bye.
谢谢陈明会长。这个现在我们是不是已经到了最后的结束了？现在我们可以宣布结束了。
好，感谢大家的光临，祝大家度个愉快的晚上。
非常感谢，再一次感谢大家，谢谢你们。
好，谢谢几位嘉宾。
谢谢大家晚安。